Our story of the video is titled The Odds, from Season 1, Episode 4, originally airing on October 21st, 1984. Our story starts in a nearly empty bar. A pair of friends named Tommy and Horace talk in a booth. Tommy is a sports bookie and smokes and jokes about Horace's new betting calculator, saying that he just needs a pencil in his mind to win his bets. Horace says that the calculator was actually meant to be a gift for Tommy, saying that no one has phoned in a bet with them for over 3 days. Horace leaves the booth to get them a drink, and Tommy eyes the nearby phone. Suddenly, an odd, chilly gust of wind blows his tickets around. Tommy looks over to the bartender named Phil, asking him to turn off the ceiling fan, saying that it's freezing him out. Phil and Horace look up at the ceiling fan, only to see that it's off. They both look over to see a tall man dressed in white standing in the doorway. Phil jokes that the man appeared out of nowhere, and that he didn't hear the door open. The man in white slowly walks over and sits down in the booth across from Tommy, giving him a knowing smile. Tommy smirks and asks the man why he's grinning at him. The man in white fumbles through his pockets, finding a ticket. He takes a quick look before placing it back, and tells Tommy that he wants to put $500 on a horse named Ryan's Daughter. Tommy retorts that the horse the man is wanting to bet on has 40-1 odds, and that he's almost certainly going to lose the bet. The man in white produces 5 rare currency pieces worth $100 each. In the midst of the conversation, the betting calculator suddenly chimes, causing Tommy to get upset and tell Horace to stop playing with it while they're talking business. Horace explains that the device chimes every hour before placing it in his shirt pocket. Tommy slides the 5 coins back across the table to the man in white, who inquires if the bet is too high. Tommy glances at the man with a sidelong look and responds, "When it comes to betting, too high isn't in his vocabulary." Tommy tells the man that it's all about timing, explaining that the race he wants to bet on occurred exactly at 2 o'clock. They glance at the nearby clock and see that the deadline is passed. Tommy calls over to Phil, asking him to turn on the radio. The radio announcer reveals that the race has suffered a minor delay. The man in white grins and slowly pushes the coins back across the table. Tommy grins and nods, accepting the stranger's wager. They listen as the announcer commences the race, calling out the positions of the horses. The race is nearly halfway over, with the man in white's horse in last place. Horace smiles and takes out his digital calculator, pushing buttons to play a light-hearted 8-bit version of Funeral March as he smirks at the stranger. However, the moment Horace finishes his mockery, the man in white's horse suddenly begins surging upwards in the rankings. It swiftly goes from last place to 3rd, followed by a rapid ascent to 2nd place. Right at the finish line, Ryan's Daughter gets the win by a nose. Tommy takes a leisurely puff of his cigar, and the man in white flashes a confident smile. Horace observes the scene, his face etched with shock and disbelief. With the astronomically high odds, the stranger has just won an astonishing $20,000. Tommy grins, assures the man that he'll have his money tomorrow, and takes another puff of his cigar. Without losing a step, the man in white asks about another stake, inquiring about the betting odds for the upcoming baseball game with Detroit. Tommy reveals the minimal payoff, stating that it's only 1-3. The man, undeterred, expresses his desire to bet all $20,000 on the Orioles to win. Horace laughs, pointing out that a win would yield an impressive $60,000. Horace reminds Tommy that he doesn't have that kind of cash readily available. Tommy, his gaze fixed on the stranger, declares that he's never turned down a wager. The man grins and nods in agreement. Later, the phone rings incessantly, flooding in with callers placing bets with Tommy. The sudden influx of bets leaves Tommy swamped, and he tries to utilize the betting calculator Horace gave him. He calls out to him, seeking guidance on how to use it, but Horace disregards his plea as he continues taking a growing number of bets. Tommy is so overwhelmed that he completely misses the beginning of the baseball game. Horace eventually takes a moment to show him how to operate the calculator. Time passes, and Phil delivers a bottle of whiskey to Tommy, patting him on the shoulder. It's evident that the influx of bets has taken a significant toll on him. Phil asks how bad the situation is, and Tommy replies with a smirk, stating that business has been better, signaling that he took a few major hits from the rampant bettors. Suddenly, a voice from the corner pipes up, asserting that he, on the other hand, has never been doing better. The voice belongs to the man in white, who positions himself in the booth. Tommy slides a black box filled with cash over to the stranger. Curious, Tommy asks the man if he's been sharing his intuitive insights. The man in white flashes a smile, saying he enjoys spreading the thrill and making people happy, before erupting into laughter. The sound of his laugh triggers a familiar memory for Tommy, reminiscent of a gambler he once knew, named Bill Lacey. Tommy asks if the strange man is Bill Lacey's son, but the stranger merely pats the cash box, commenting on its attractive appearance. Looking up at Tommy, the man remarks on his fondness for boxing, expressing a desire to place a bet on that evening's match. Tommy mentions that he needs to make a phone call to handle the bet. Lacking change on his person, the man in white offers a nickel, suggesting that Tommy should add it to the wager. Horace, still convinced that the man in white is the offspring of Bill Lacey, remarks that he differs from his father. He's fortunate and kind, two qualities that his father lacked. Horace evaluates the potential payout of the wager, and it amounts to a sizable sum, close to $250,000. The man in white comments that Bill Lacey was a fool. Horace asserts that it isn't respectful to speak ill of the deceased. Unfazed, the man in white counters by stating that it is, in fact, Tommy who ought to be dead, not Bill Lacey. Tommy, eavesdropping on the exchange, questions if the man's words are sincere, as he walks over and resumes his seat at the table. The two engage in a debate about Bill Lacey, centering around the substantial debt he accrued and his inability to settle it, which ultimately led him to take his own life. Their quarrel is abruptly interrupted when the man in white prepares to depart. He instructs Tommy to ensure he has the money ready for him by the next day. Tommy asserts firmly that the money is only his if he wins the wager. The following evening, it's revealed that the man in white is victorious, with 2 boxes stacked with cash showcased on the table. He glances up at Tommy, grinning. Tommy observes, remarking that he must be experiencing quite a winning streak. The man in white asks if he'll still continue taking bets, and Tommy says he never turns down a bet. It's his reputation, and he's got to stick with it. Tommy concedes that, given the man's current winning streak, he will have to modify the odds. The man in white proposes a new wager, but the odds are now 1-to-1, a double or nothing proposition. Tommy is pleased with the offer, and after a pause, he asks on what subject the bet is. The man in white smiles eerily and calmly suggests it be on Tommy's life, his grin never wavering. Horace coughs and chokes upon hearing the proposal, clearly taken aback by the audacity of the wager. Tommy smirks, while the grin never leaving the man in white's face. Tommy asks for more details. The man in white says that he bets his $240,000 in cash that Tommy will die of natural causes by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Tommy laughs, joking that the man will show up and shoot him at 7:59. The man in white says that his death must be of natural causes. Tommy agrees, asserting that he's in excellent health as he extinguishes his cigar. He instructs the man in white to bring his money back that evening, while he will bring his portion. They decide to place the money out until the deadline for their agreement. As the man in white prepares to leave, Horace questions if Tommy has lost his mind, expressing concern that the stranger has yet to lose a single wager, and revealing his worry that Tommy is tempting fate. Later on, Horace can be seen playing with his digital calculator, pressing the keys to create tunes with the device. Tommy jokingly requests that if he were to lose the wager, he would want Horace to provide musical entertainment at his funeral. Horace responds with a grunt, dismissing the dark joke, only making Tommy laugh harder. Suddenly, the man in white abruptly appears without making a sound, followed closely by another man dressed entirely in black. Horace reacts with a shudder, as if he's been chilled by a frigid breeze. As the 2 men make their way over, Horace expresses that they make him uneasy. They confirm the details of the bet by displaying their money in their respective cases. The man in white takes a seat beside Horace, while Tommy struggles to stay awake in his chair. His associate approaches and gently shakes him awake. Tommy quips that the bet is about dying, not falling asleep, before adding another morbid jest to Horace, instructing him to awaken him only if he passes away. And with that, Tommy falls asleep sitting in his booth. The hours tick by, every new hour marked with the digital chime from Horace's betting calculator. Every time Tommy looks over at Horace, he gives him a wink and goes right back to sleep. Around 4 a.m., Tommy begins to look nervous. He's sweating, and every time he opens his eyes, the man in white is staring daggers. The last 8 minutes of the bet has Horace on edge, He shakes Tommy awake, screaming at him not to die. Tommy plays dead and doesn't move. The man in white seems amused by the antics. Tommy smiles and laughs. He asks Horace to get him a cup of coffee. The man in white sits back down in the booth, the smile never leaving his face. They converse about the final 5 minutes, and Tommy finally lets loose on the stranger. He reveals that he knows who he is and has all along. He knows that he isn't Bill Lacey's son, but in fact he's Bill Lacey himself. Tommy says he knew him the moment he set eyes on him. He knows why he's on a seemingly never-ending hot streak. Horace returns, saying it's impossible. Billy Lacey is dead, and Horace himself went to his funeral, saw him lying in the coffin and all. But Tommy says it doesn't matter, because he's sitting right in front of him. He continues to say that maybe Lacey's dead and got the inside beat on when Tommy's time is going to be up. And he's playing off that info. Or maybe he's just a cheat, and faked his death and now he's here for some petty revenge. But he says none of that matters in the end. Here they are, minutes before the deadline, and he's still alive. Saying that it's because he has something Lacey never had, willpower. Saying that Lacey, dead or not, is a coward. Opting out, leaving behind a sick wife and 2 little kids. All because he couldn't pay a gambling debt. Lacey says he lost everything, all because of Tommy. Tommy says he's about to lose it all again. The digital chime on Horace's calculator sounds, signifying the top of the hour. 8 a.m. has seemingly come and Tommy is still alive. Tommy's associate takes the 2 cases and leaves the bar in a hurry. Lacey gets up from the booth with his head hung low before he leaves, vanishing into thin air. Tommy giggles with Horace as he writes down his last will and testament. Horace asks why he's doing that if he just won the bet. Tommy, still giggling slightly, says that he is in fact about ready to die, saying he can feel it. But he's laughing because Lacey fell for the oldest trick in the book. Tommy had set the clock ahead a few minutes, ensuring he'd win the bet. He tells Horace to set his digital calculator back to the correct time before laughing harder. Saying that he's happy, he's gonna die laughing. Horace puts in the correct time, looking at him like he's crazy. Tommy says not to worry, that he's leaving him a bunch of money and that it's time for celebration. Horace stares in disbelief at what he just said, but Tommy continues, saying he was never cheated and that he is still the best, before asking Horace for a glass of beer. Tommy still giggles to himself, saying again that he's happy he's gonna die laughing as Horace gets the beers from Phil. The digital calculator's chime sounds once more as 8 a.m. actually hits. Tommy's laughter stops, and his pencil rolls off the table. His fate is sealed, his life coming to a sudden end as the screen fades to black. When it comes to the story of the odds, it all started with a story written by Carol Lucia Citrina that was adapted for television and directed by James Stephen Sadwith, who brought a tight theatrical intensity to the story, turning what feels like a tense story on paper into a sly smack to the face of fate, reputation, and one last unbeatable wager. Danny Aiello stars as Tommy Vale, the grizzled, no-nonsense bookie who never turns down a bet and guards his reputation like a sacred code. Aiello was already a respected actor at the time and would later become best known for his Oscar-nominated turn as Sal in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, along with memorable roles in The Godfather 2, Moonstruck, and Hudson Hawk. Opposite him is Tom Noonan, playing the mysterious, unnervingly calm bettor Bill Lacey. Noonan, with his lanky frame and intense presence, excels at playing enigmatic or unsettling figures. He's best known for his chilling portrayal of the serial killer in Manhunter, as well as roles in The House of the Devil, RoboCop 2, and playing Jack the Ripper, alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger in Last Action Hero. Upon its original release in 1984, The Odds was well received as one of the stronger stories in the first season. Viewers and critics appreciated the sharp writing, the powerhouse acting duel between Aiello and Noonan, and the episode's clever blend of tension and gallows humor. It stood out in an anthology that mixed hits and misses, earning praise for its tight pacing and memorable performances in a format constrained by low budgets and short run times. Today, it holds up remarkably well. Modern viewers still call it one of the season's highlights and a standout in the entire series for its character-driven drama and existential undertones. The low-budget charm feels intentional rather than dated, the themes of hubris and mortality remain timeless, and the central performances continue to impress. Aiello's fiery energy and Noonan's eerie cool haven't lost any power. While the series as a whole can feel uneven or a bit creaky in spots by today's standards, The Odds is frequently cited as a gem that rewards rewatches, especially for fans of smart, dialogue-heavy, horror-tinged tales. Personally, I enjoyed the overall story, but it's a bit of a slow burn and is lacking the true creep factor of other entries in the series. But it's a good example that not every episode needs a grotesque monster to be creepy and entertaining. However, it might fall flat on younger audiences who can't stand slow burners. But if you're a classic horror fan that loves story and tension, you'll find the episode enjoyable.
But anyway, that's all I have for y'all on this one. Take care, have a good weekend, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.